Let me say this slowly so it lands. Survival is not success. Survival is the floor, not the ceiling. Survival is what you do when you're drowning and trying not to die, not what you do when you're meant to dominate your life. Yet millions of people wake up every morning, look at a life they don't respect, and tell themselves, "At least I'm surviving." That sentence has destroyed more potential than failure ever could, because survival feels responsible. It feels mature. It feels safe. You pay your bills. You show up. You don't cause trouble. You keep your head down. And society claps for you. Society rewards survival because survival doesn't threaten anyone. A surviving person doesn't question the system, doesn't raise the standard, doesn't force others to confront their own laziness. Survival is quiet. Greatness is loud. Here's the danger. Survival mode slowly rewires your mind. You stop asking, "What do I want?" and start asking, "What can I tolerate?" You don't choose the best option, you choose the least painful one. You don't chase opportunity, you avoid disaster. And over time, your entire identity shrinks to damage control. Just get through the week. Just make it to payday. Just don't mess things up. That's not life. That's a slow, polite surrender. Understand this clearly. No one who ever changed their life did it from survival mode. No one built strength, wealth, confidence, or freedom by playing defense forever. Greatness requires offense. It requires aiming higher than okay. The moment you settle for survival, you declare that your dreams are optional and your fear is in charge. Look at how survival talks. It says, now isn't the right time. It says, be realistic. It says, you should be grateful for what you have. Gratitude is powerful, yes, but gratitude without ambition turns into a cage. Being thankful does not mean being satisfied with less than your capability. You can respect where you are and still demand more from yourself. Survival also lies about risk. It convinces you that staying small is safer than trying and failing. But staying small has a cost. It costs you confidence. It costs you self-respect. It costs you the version of yourself you could have met if you were brave enough to try. Failure is loud and embarrassing, but survival failure is silent. You wake up one day older, heavier, more tired, and you can't point to a single moment where it all went wrong. It just faded. Ask yourself this while you're watching. Are your goals exciting, or are they just comfortable? Do they scare you a little, or do they simply maintain what you already have? Survival goals sound like this: as long as I'm stable, as long as I don't fall behind. Winners don't speak that language. Winners don't aim to maintain. They aim to expand, and let's be honest, survival mode is addictive. It gives you excuses that sound intelligent. I have responsibilities. I can't take risks right now. Other people have it worse. All of that can be true and still irrelevant. Responsibility does not cancel ambition. Difficulty does not cancel growth. Your circumstances explain where you are, but they do not get to decide where you stop. Greatness begins the moment you reject the survival mindset. When you stop asking how to avoid losing and start asking how to win. When you stop protecting your comfort and start challenging your limits. That shift is internal before it's external. Nothing changes on the outside until something snaps on the inside and says, this is no longer enough for me. Survival keeps you busy so you don't notice you're stuck. Greatness demands clarity. It forces you to confront uncomfortable questions. What am I capable of if I stop playing small? What would my life look like if fear wasn't making my decisions? Who would I become if I stopped settling for stability and started chasing excellence? Most people never answer those questions because survival keeps them distracted. Work, stress, entertainment, noise. Anything to avoid stillness, because stillness reveals dissatisfaction, and dissatisfaction, if you're honest with it, becomes fuel. That fuel is dangerous to a survival mindset because once you feel it, you can't unfeel it. Once you realize you're meant for more, survival starts to feel like suffocation. This is where the internal war begins. One voice says, stay safe. The other says, step up, boss. One says, don't risk it. The other says, you're wasting time, and every single day, your actions vote for one of those voices. Not your words, not your intentions. Your actions. Survival is easy to justify, but impossible to respect. Deep down, you know when you're playing small. You feel it when you avoid the hard task. You feel it when you delay the difficult decision. You feel it when you watch others live boldly and tell yourself stories about why you couldn't do the same. That feeling doesn't go away with comfort. It grows louder with time. Greatness starts when you decide that merely existing is no longer acceptable, when you stop negotiating with mediocrity. When you recognize that survival is not a phase you're stuck in, but a mindset you're choosing, consciously or unconsciously. And the moment you choose differently, everything begins to shift. Because the mind that refuses to settle cannot live the same life for long. It starts demanding action, pressure, movement. And that demand changes how you wake up, how you work, how you tolerate excuses, how you look at fear, how you define yourself. And once that line is crossed, going back to survival no longer feels safe. It feels unbearable. Comfort never announces itself as danger. It doesn't arrive loud or aggressive. It doesn't threaten you. It welcomes you. It tells you to sit down, relax, breathe, and stay right where you are. That's why it's so effective. Comfort doesn't push you into chains. It hands you cushions and waits for you to forget that you ever wanted more. Most people think prison looks like struggle. They think being trapped means suffering, chaos, or obvious failure. But the most effective prison in the modern world is comfortable. It has entertainment. It has excuses. It has routines that feel productive but lead nowhere. You're not locked in by force. You stay because leaving would mean effort. Comfort teaches you to confuse convenience with happiness. If something feels easy, you assume it must be good for you. If something feels hard, you assume it must be wrong. That single belief destroys more potential than lack of talent ever could. Growth has never been convenient. Expansion has never been comfortable. Yet comfort trains you to avoid anything that challenges your current identity. Watch how comfort rewires behavior. It encourages delays. It makes you negotiate with discipline. It normalizes tomorrow. It turns short breaks into permanent pauses. At first, you skip one workout, then one uncomfortable conversation, then one risky decision. Comfort applauds every retreat and labels it self-care, balance, or patience, and slowly, without noticing, your world gets smaller. Comfort hates pressure. It hates deadlines that matter. It hates standards that demand consistency. It hates environments that expose weakness. That's why comfort pushes you toward distraction instead of focus, entertainment, instead of effort, validation, instead of mastery. It wants you busy, not better. Here's the trap. Comfort feels like relief. After a long day, comfort feels earned. After failure, comfort feels deserved. After stress, comfort feels necessary. But what you call relief is often avoidance. What you call rest is often escape. What you call peace is often just the absence of challenge. Comfort protects your ego. It keeps you from failing publicly. It keeps you from being judged. It keeps you from looking foolish while learning something new. But in doing so, it also keeps you from becoming competent, dangerous, and respected. You cannot be protected and powerful at the same time. Pay attention to this. Comfort is addictive because it removes urgency. When there's no pressure, there's no reason to move fast. When there's no urgency, there's no intensity. When there's no intensity, growth becomes optional. And optional growth is growth that never happens. Comfort convinces you that you have time. That illusion is lethal. It tells you that you can wait, that conditions will improve, that motivation will return, that clarity will arrive. But time doesn't announce when it's running out. Comfort doesn't warn you when it's winning. Look at the patterns around you. People who are too comfortable rarely change. They talk about change. They consume content about changed. They admire people who changed, but they don't move. Movement would require discomfort, and discomfort feels unnecessary. When life is fine, comfort also shapes your environment. It influences who you keep around. You stay near people who don't challenge you, who normalize your habits, who validate your excuses. Not because they're bad people, but because challenge feels threatening when comfort is in control. Growth requires friction, and comfort avoids friction at all costs. And here's the most dangerous part. Comfort slowly convinces you that this is who you are, that your current energy, income, discipline, body, mindset, and ambition represent your limit. You stop seeing them as temporary conditions and start treating them as permanent traits. Comfort turns circumstances into identity. The moment you try to step out of comfort, it fights back. Your body resists. Your mind panics. Your environment questions you. That resistance is not a sign that you're wrong. It's proof that you're breaking out. Comfort doesn't scream when you leave. It tightens its grip through doubt, fear, And rationalization, you were not meant to feel comfortable all the time. Comfort is a place to visit, not a place to live. Strength, confidence, and self-respect are forged in moments where you want to quit, but don't, where you want to avoid, but confront, where you want to rest, but execute. Every version of yourself that you admire exists on the other side of comfort. Every skill you want, every level of respect you crave, every ounce of confidence you lack is locked behind something you are currently avoiding. Comfort knows this. That's why it works so hard to keep you still. Ask yourself what you are protecting by staying comfortable. Your pride, your image, your routine, your excuses, and then ask what it's costing you. Not in dramatic ways, but in slow, invisible ways, in unrealized strength, in unused talent, in days that blend together. In years that disappear, comfort will never tell you that it's holding you back. It will tell you that you're being patient. It will tell you that you're being smart. It will tell you that you're being realistic. But deep down, you already know the difference between peace and stagnation. Discomfort is not your enemy. It is the signal that you are stretching beyond what you've been before. The moment you feel uncomfortable is the moment you're closest to something new. Comfort wants you to retreat from that edge. Growth demands that you step forward anyway. This is not about suffering for no reason. It's about choosing meaningful discomfort over meaningless ease, about trading short-term relief for long-term power, about understanding that the prison you're in has no bars, no guards, no locks, only habits, choices, and a voice that keeps telling you to stay where it's warm, where it's safe, where it's familiar, where nothing demands more from you, and nothing exposes you, and nothing tests you, and nothing tests you, and nothing forces you to evolve, and nothing pushes you to confront your limits, and requires you to surrender your identity. Nothing challenges that you're aligned. How to survive a life how looks fine from the outside, but feel inside, and you begin to never know inside, and it be like your ren has begun in between. It requires you to save you to endure for one expose more for more of one. We can't just both niveau see or find where you are, as long as you're from reality. Motivation is loud at the beginning and silent when it matters most. It shows up when the idea is exciting, when the vision feels fresh, when the results are imagined but not earned. Motivation loves beginnings. Discipline survives the middle, and the middle is where almost everyone quits. People wait to feel motivated before they act, and that single habit keeps them trapped. Motivation is emotional. Emotions are unstable. They rise when things feel good and disappear when things feel heavy. If your progress depends on how you feel, your progress will always be inconsistent. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. That's why it works. Discipline is the decision made in advance. It's the structure you build on your best day to protect you on your worst day. It's showing up when your mind is negotiating and your body is resisting. It's doing the work when no one is watching and nothing is rewarding you yet. Motivation asks, do I feel like it? Discipline asks, what needs to be done? Most people confuse discipline with punishment. They think discipline means suffering, restriction, or harshness. In reality, discipline is self-respect in action. It's choosing long-term power over short-term comfort. It's proving to yourself daily that your word matters. Motivation is external. It's triggered by videos, speeches, music, wins, or praise. Discipline is internal. It exists even when everything is quiet, even when there's no applause, even when the results are invisible. That's why disciplined people look unstoppable over time. They're not stronger, they're consistent. Watch what happens when motivation fades. Excuses appear. Delays multiply. Standards drop. Tasks get rescheduled. And each broken promise weakens your self-trust. You stop believing yourself. You start doubting your ability to follow through. Not because you can't, but because you've trained yourself not to. Discipline rebuilds that trust. Every completed task is a vote for the person you're trying to become. Every action taken without motivation reinforces identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who executes. Discipline creates momentum. Motivation chases it. You don't get disciplined by waiting. You get disciplined by acting while resistance is present. The mind will always try to protect you from discomfort. Discipline overrides that instinct. It teaches the mind that comfort is not the priority. Progress is, think about this carefully, your future doesn't care how motivated you were. It only reflects what you repeatedly did. No one becomes skilled, fit, wealthy, or respected because they felt inspired occasionally. They become those things because they followed systems regardless of mood. Discipline removes decision fatigue. When your standards are clear, there is nothing to debate. You don't waste energy convincing yourself to act. You act because that's who you are. Discipline simplifies life. It reduces chaos. It creates clarity, and here's the truth most people avoid. Discipline is boring. There's nothing flashy about repeating fundamentals. There's nothing exciting about consistency. That's why it's rare. But boring done daily becomes extraordinary over time. Motivation wants intensity. Discipline wants repeatability. When things get hard, motivation disappears first. When routines break, discipline restores them. When confidence fades, discipline carries you forward anyway. Discipline doesn't require belief. It only requires compliance. You don't need to believe in yourself to be disciplined. You just need to obey your standards. Discipline also protects you from your future self, the version of you that's tired, stressed, distracted, or emotional. By setting non-negotiables, you prevent bad days from becoming bad weeks. Discipline keeps small failures from turning into identity. Level collapse. Look at anyone you respect. Their success is not the result of constant motivation. It's the result of relentless execution. They train when they don't feel like it. They work when it's inconvenient. They show up when it's uncomfortable. Over time, their discipline compounds into confidence. Motivation is unreliable. Discipline is predictable, and predictability wins every time you choose discipline over motivation. You harden yourself. You become less dependent on feelings and more connected to standards. You stop negotiating with weakness. You stop asking permission from comfort. You move whether you feel ready or not. This is where power comes from, not from hype, not from energy spikes, from quiet, repeated action, from showing up on ordinary days, from keeping promises when it would be easier to break them. Discipline doesn't need excitement. It needs commitment. The kind of commitment that survives boredom, resistance, and doubt. The kind that doesn't wait for the perfect mood or the perfect moment. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is a furnace. One fades quickly, the other keeps burning. The moment you stop chasing motivation and start building discipline, everything changes. Your confidence stabilizes. Your progress accelerates. Your excuses lose credibility. You stop identifying as someone who needs to feel ready and start identifying as someone who does what must be done regardless of mood, regardless of fear, regardless of resistance, regardless of distractions, regardless of doubt, regardless of comfort, regardless of praise, regardless of recognition, regardless of outcome. Because you understand that discipline is not about feeling strong in the moment, but about becoming someone who cannot be stopped over time. And you realize that the days you don't feel like it are not obstacles, but opportunities to separate yourself from everyone who quits. When motivation runs out and you lean into the resistance and steer and you move forward, not because it's easy or exceeding, but because this is who you move forward, not because it is the awaiting decided to be. Most people think responsibility is heavy. They think it's a burden, a weight, something forced on them by life, by parents, by society, by circumstances they didn't choose. They see responsibility as pressure, as obligation, as something that limits freedom. But the truth is the opposite. Responsibility is the source of power, and avoiding it is the fastest way to stay weak. The moment you refuse responsibility, you hand control to something else, to people, to systems, to luck, to excuses. When you say, "This isn't my fault," what you're really saying is, "I have no authority here." And without authority, you are always reacting, always complaining, always waiting. Power begins the moment you say, "This is on me." Not because you caused everything that happened to you, but because you are responsible for what happens next. Life is unfair. That's not a secret. But refusing responsibility because life is unfair doesn't punish life, it punishes you. It locks you into helplessness and calls it realism. Responsibility forces honesty. It removes the comfort of blame. When you take responsibility, you can no longer hide behind stories about why things are the way they are. You have to face your habits, your decisions, your discipline, your standards. And that confrontation is uncomfortable because it exposes gaps between who you are and who you claim to be. But that discomfort is where power starts to grow. Blame feels good in the short term. It protects the ego. It preserves self-image. It allows you to feel right without becoming better. Responsibility does the opposite. It challenges you. It demands change. It asks more of you than you've been giving. That's why most people avoid it. Responsibility also eliminates excuses. When everything is your responsibility, excuses lose their usefulness. You stop asking who failed you and start asking what you can fix. You stop waiting for permission and start creating outcomes. You stop hoping for fairness and start building leverage. This shift changes how you move through the world. You speak differently. You act faster. You tolerate less nonsense from yourself. You stop expecting motivation, support, or understanding. You become dependable. And dependable people are powerful because they can be trusted with weight. Responsibility builds self-respect. Every time you take ownership of a result, good or bad, you reinforce the belief that you are capable of handling reality. You stop seeing yourself as fragile. You stop seeing obstacles as personal attacks. You start seeing them as problems to solve. And here's something most people don't realize: responsibility expands your capacity. The more responsibility you take on, the stronger you become. Just like muscle capacity grows under load, avoid responsibility and you stay small. Embrace it and you grow into someone who can carry more without breaking. People who avoid responsibility are always overwhelmed. Everything feels like too much. Small challenges feel massive. But people who accept responsibility develop resilience. Pressure becomes familiar. Stress becomes manageable. They don't panic when things go wrong because they trust themselves to respond. Responsibility also clarifies priorities. When everything is someone else's fault, nothing is truly important. But when the outcome rests on you, focus sharpens. You stop wasting time. You stop entertaining distractions. You stop living casually. You start moving with intention. This is why leaders are powerful. Not because they have authority over others, but because they have taken responsibility for outcomes beyond themselves. They carry weight willingly, and that weight gives them presence. People feel it, respect it, follow it. Avoiding responsibility might feel like freedom, but it's actually dependence. Dependence on circumstances being kind, on people being fair, on conditions being perfect. Responsibility breaks that dependence. It makes you self-directed. When you fully accept responsibility, fear changes. Fear no longer paralyzes you. It informs you. It becomes data, not a command. You stop running from fear and start acting in spite of it because you understand that responsibility means acting even when certainty is missing. Responsibility also rewires how you see failure. Failure is no longer something to hide from. It's feedback, it's information, it's a signal to adjust. When you're responsible, failure doesn't attack your identity. It sharpens your strategy, and this is the part that separates people. Responsibility is lonely at first. When you stop blaming others, you lose the comfort of shared excuses. When you stop complaining, you lose the community built around victimhood. When you stop waiting, you stand alone with your decisions, but that loneliness is temporary. What replaces it is strength in knowing that no matter what happens, you will respond. Strength in knowing that you don't need perfect conditions to move forward. Strength in knowing that your life is not something happening to you, but something being shaped by you. Responsibility also creates momentum. Once you accept ownership in one area, it spreads. You clean up your habits. You raise your standards. You tighten your routines. You stop tolerating chaos. Order begins to form, and order creates efficiency. You become harder to control and harder to stop. This is why responsibility is feared, because it removes every excuse. It exposes every weakness. It demands effort. But in return, it gives you something rare: agency, the ability to act decisively, the ability to influence outcomes, the ability to build something real. You don't become powerful by demanding fairness. You become powerful by accepting responsibility, by carrying weight without complaint, by handling problems without dramatizing them, by taking ownership even when it's inconvenient. The moment you stop asking who should fix this and start saying, I will fix this, something shifts inside you. Your posture changes, your voice cedes, your actions sharpen. You stop feeling like a passenger and start moving like a driver. Responsibility is not about guilt. It's about control. It's about choosing to stand in the center of your life instead of watching it from the sidelines. It's about understanding that while you can't control everything that happens, you can control how you respond, how you prepare, how you act, how you adapt, how you recover, how you improve, How you lead yourself forward in situations where no one is coming to save you and no one owes you an explanation and no one to make it easier for you. And you finally realize that this is not a disability but an advantage, because the moment you accept full responsibility, you reclaim your power and you stop as carrying the weight that most gain for permission, and you start Campbell who cannot be nor. And that weight shapes you in someone, and that weight shapes you. Most people mob be ignored. Pain is the one thing everyone wants to avoid, and the one thing no one who has ever grown escaped. Yet most people spend their entire lives running from it, negotiating with it, numbing it, hiding from it, pretending it shouldn't exist. They treat pain like an error in the system instead of the cost of admission, but pain is not a mistake. Pain is a signal. Every meaningful upgrade in your life will demand pain of some kind. Physical pain, mental pain, emotional pain, the pain of discipline, the pain of sacrifice, the pain of being misunderstood, the pain of staying consistent when nothing is working yet, the pain of choosing growth while others choose comfort. There is no path forward without it. The problem is not pain itself. The problem is that most people choose the wrong kind of pain. They avoid the pain of effort and end up living with the pain of regret. They avoid the pain of discipline and inherit the pain of weakness. They avoid the pain of confrontation and suffer the pain of resentment. Pain doesn't disappear when you avoid it. It just changes form. Progress. Pain is sharp but purposeful. It hurts, but it moves you somewhere. It builds capacity. It strengthens your tolerance. It forces adaptation. Comfort. Pain is dull and endless. It's the ache of knowing you're capable of more and choosing less anyway. Pain is the currency of transformation. Nothing valuable is free. Strength costs pain. Skill costs pain. Confidence costs pain. Self-respect costs pain. The only question is whether you're willing to pay up front or pay later with interest. Most people panic when pain shows up. They interpret it as a sign to stop. But pain is often a sign that something is finally changing. Muscles tear before they grow. Identity fractures before it evolves. Old habits resist before they break. Pain is information, not an enemy. When you train your body, pain tells you where you're weak. When you build discipline, pain tells you where you've been soft. When you pursue something meaningful, pain tells you where fear lives. Every signal is an opportunity to refine yourself instead of retreat, but pain exposes character. It reveals who is committed and who was only curious. Anyone can talk about growth when it's easy. Pain is where talk collapses. Pain is where excuses come out. Pain is where most people negotiate their standards downward. That's why pain is such an effective filter. Pain demands presence. You can't sleepwalk through it. You can't scroll through it. You can't distract your way out of it forever. At some point, you have to face it. And when you do, you discover something important. You are more durable than you thought. Avoiding pain makes you fragile. Facing pain makes you resilient. Look at people who have never challenged themselves. Small problems overwhelm them. Minor setbacks feel catastrophic. They haven't built pain tolerance, so everything hurts more than it should. Meanwhile, people who have willingly faced pain move differently. They don't panic. They don't dramatize. They absorb impact and keep moving. Pain also forces clarity. When things hurt, you stop pretending. You see what matters and what doesn't. You stop wasting energy on nonsense. Pain strips life down to essentials, and here's what no one tells you. Pain becomes quieter when you stop resisting it. The moment you accept pain as part of the process, it loses its power to control you. It's still there, but it no longer dictates your decisions. It becomes background noise while you execute. Pain is also temporary. Weakness lasts longer. The pain of discipline fades into pride. The pain of effort fades into capability. The pain of learning fades into mastery. But the pain of regret lingers. It follows you into quiet moments. It shows up when you're alone. It asks questions you don't want to answer. Progress requires you to choose which pain you're willing to live with. Pain will test your identity. It will ask you who you really are when comfort is removed. It will expose whether your standards are real or just words. And every time you endure pain without quitting, something changes internally. You trust yourself more. You fear less. You become harder to break. Pain sharpens focus. When you know the cost, you stop wasting chances. You stop showing up halfway. You stop treating your potential casually. Pain demands commitment. People who grow understand this. They don't glorify pain, but they don't avoid it either. They respect it. They use it. They step into it deliberately because they know what waits on the other side. Pain is not there to destroy you. It's there to shape you. Every level has a new pain. Every upgrade requires a new tolerance. You don't escape pain by leveling up. You earn better pain. Pain with purpose. Pain with direction. Pain that leads somewhere. The moment you stop asking how to avoid pain and start asking how to endure it productively, everything changes. You stop looking for shortcuts and start building capacity. You stop chasing ease and start building strength. Pain is the price of becoming someone you respect. It's the toll booth on the road forward. You can turn around and stay comfortable, or you can pay and pass through. And when you look back, you won't remember the pain clearly. You'll remember who you became because you didn't run from it, and you didn't numb it, and you didn't outsource it, and you didn't wait for it to disappear, and you didn't pretend it meant something was wrong, and instead you stood inside it long enough to be changed by it, and you realized that pain's right way was never there to stop you, to strip away, couldn't come with you and force you to grow into something capable of carrying what you asked for. Most people treat winning like a fantasy, something distant, something reserved for the lucky, the gifted, the connected, the chosen. They talk about winning the way people talk about dreams they don't expect to live, with hope, admiration, and zero urgency. And that mindset alone guarantees they never get there. Winning is not something that happens to you. Winning is something you decide not once, not emotionally, not when you feel inspired. Winning is a decision you make and then defend daily against doubt, comfort, fear, and distraction. The moment you reduce winning to a dream, you remove responsibility from yourself. Dreams are optional. Decisions are binding. A decision changes behavior. A dream only changes conversation. The second you decide to win, standards appear. Lines get drawn. Certain behaviors become unacceptable. Certain excuses lose their power. You stop asking what feels good and start asking what moves you forward. That internal shift is the real beginning of winning. Long before results show up, most people want the feeling of winning without the identity of a winner. They want confidence without discipline, respect without effort, outcomes without standards. But winning has requirements, and it does not negotiate. When you decide to win, you stop waiting for permission. You don't wait for motivation. You don't wait for clarity. You don't wait for conditions to improve. You act from commitment, not convenience. You move even when the picture is incomplete, because you understand that clarity follows action, not the other way around. Winning also demands consistency in the dark. Long stretches where nothing validates your decision. No applause, no feedback, no visible progress. This is where dreams die and decisions survive. A dream needs encouragement. A decision only needs obedience. Look closely at people who win consistently. They don't rely on emotion. They rely on systems. They don't ask if today matters. They act like every day matters because they understand that outcomes are built invisibly before they're celebrated publicly. Winning is uncomfortable because it isolates you. Once you decide to win, you separate yourself from casual thinking, from average habits, from comfortable conversations. Your priorities shift. Your tolerance for nonsense drops. People notice, and not everyone likes it. That discomfort is not a problem. It's confirmation. Winning also means accepting trade-offs. You can't have everything. You choose what you're willing to give up. Time, energy, ease, approval, comfort. Winning requires sacrifice, not dramatically, but repeatedly in small, boring decisions that compound over time. Most people don't fail to win because they lack ability. They fail because they never decide what they're willing to sacrifice. They want winning to fit neatly inside their current lifestyle. But winning demands that your lifestyle change to support it. A decision to win forces alignment. Your habits align. Your schedule aligns. Your environment aligns. You stop living randomly. You start living deliberately. Random effort produces random results. Winning requires precision. When you decide to win, excuses sound different. They don't disappear immediately, but you stop believing them. You hear the voice that says, later, or not today, or it doesn't matter. And you recognize it for what it is, resistance trying to renegotiate the decision, and you don't renegotiate. Winning is not about intensity spikes. It's about relentless follow through. Anyone can go hard for a week. Winners show up when the excitement fades, when the novelty is gone, when the work becomes repetitive. When progress feels slow, that's where identity locks in. At some point, winning stops being something you chase and starts being something you expect from yourself. You don't hope you'll do the work. You assume you will. You don't wonder if you'll show up. You already know the answer. This is what separates winners from everyone else. Not confidence, not talent, not luck. Certainty of action. Winning also redefines failure. Failure is no longer a verdict. It's data, it's adjustment, it's feedback. When you've decided to win, quitting is not an option. So failure has nowhere to send you except forward. You stop asking, what if I fail? And start asking, what's the next move? A decision to win also changes your relationship with time. You stop wasting it. You stop treating days casually. You understand that every day either reinforces the decision or weakens it. There is no neutral. You are either voting for the winner you decided to become or against them. Winning is not loud in the beginning. It's quiet. It's lonely. It's repetitive. It looks unimpressive from the outside. That's why most people don't recognize it until it's undeniable. But by then, the work is already done. The hardest part of winning is not the work. It's deciding and then living in alignment with that decision when nothing is forcing you to. No deadlines, no external pressure, just your word to yourself. And that's the moment that defines everything, because the moment you truly decide to win, you stop negotiating with your weaker self. You stop asking if you deserve it. You stop waiting to feel ready. You act from decision, not emotion. From commitment, not comfort. From standards, not circumstances. Winning doesn't arrive one day as a surprise. It's built daily by someone who already decided they are not here to try, not here to hope, not here to wish, but here to execute, to endure, to adjust, to persist, to outlast resistance. To move forward when it's boring, when it's hard clear, when it's unclear, when it's uncomfortable, when no one is watching, when nothing is guaranteed, when doubt is loud, when fear is present, when progress is invisible. Because winning was never a dream you admired from a distance, but a decision you made and refused to walk back from, even when everything in you wanted to choose the easier path. You've heard about survival. Comfort, discipline, responsibility, pain, and winning, not as ideas, not as motivation, but as realities that shape every life, whether you acknowledge them or not. This was never about hype. It was about exposure, about stripping away the stories that keep you passive and replacing them with truths that demand action. Survival keeps you alive, but it keeps you small. Comfort keeps you calm, but it keeps you trapped. Motivation excites you, but it abandons you. Blame protects your ego, but it steals your power. Avoiding pain feels safe, but it guarantees regret. Dreaming feels inspiring, but deciding is what changes outcomes. Nothing here requires permission. Nothing here depends on luck. Nothing here is waiting for the right moment. Every principle you heard operates the moment you choose to operate it. The only difference between the people who change and the people who don't is not intelligence, talent, or circumstances. It's whether they act when acting is uncomfortable and quiet and unrewarded. This is the line most people never cross. Not because they can't, but because they won't. Because crossing it means letting go of excuses that feel familiar. It means standing alone with standards that don't bend. It means carrying responsibility without applause. It means choosing productive pain over comfortable stagnation. It means deciding to win before there's any evidence that you will. Nothing external needs to change first. The shift happens internally. The moment you stop negotiating with weakness. The moment you stop asking how little you can do and start asking how much you can handle. The moment you stop waiting to feel ready and start acting from commitment. You don't need a new life. You need a new posture toward the one you already have. One that's deliberate, one that's disciplined, one that refuses to shrink under pressure, one that doesn't confuse survival with success or comfort with peace. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about finally operating at the level you've always known you